Either one's fine, whichever one you're comfortable with.
That's cool. I'll go with that.
If you're going for the professional or you're going for the sexy.
A little sexy, it never hurt, right? We're talking about power and aphrodisiacs.
There we go.
Being like this, I don't know I got much credibility.
Okay, Manib, the images are in right now, which we need to go into countdown mode. Run promo, give it 10 seconds, and count us in. Power, the ultimate aphrodisiac, which is a huge variation from what Webster describes an aphrodisiac. But today we're going to discuss the aphrodisiac. Why are we driven to it? And some of the conflicts that are involved. Now, I've got my co-host with me today, Dr. Shane. And we're going to dive right into that right after this break.
Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, v'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillah.
Our often repeated prayers,
Although we may be different,
Yet similar.
as we reach out to our Creator,
we offer all praise.
And we seek forgiveness.
we ask for peace in our hearts, in our minds, and in our spirits. Amen.
For those who are watching us on Roku, YouTube, Facebook, I'm Vincent Squire, and this is what you got to say. You'll find in our broadcast that you'll see a little phone number. So if you're like what we're saying and you want to get in on the action, you give us a call. Now, we do respect your First Amendment rights of freedom of speech. However, I be careful. With us today is none other than Dr. Shane Perot. How are you, Doctor?
I'm doing great. Always a pleasure to talk with you. I love our topic today because I think it's crucial and it's poorly understood.
Yes. Well, our topic, in terms of Webster, aphrodisiac is a substance that increases the sexual desire, sexual attention, sexual pleasure, or sexual behavior. Substance ranging from a variety of plants, spices, food, synthetic chemicals. Therefore, they can be classified by their chemical properties. Aphrodisiac. How does power fit into the definition of aphrodisiac?
So everything that we do, all human behavior is geared towards survival of the fittest, right? So out in the plains, we want to survive. We're out there, saber-toothed tigers, enemies, all these threats. And we say, we can't make it by ourselves. We have to align ourselves with those that are in power. And so it's a natural thing. We all have it. And it's something that is driven from our pure desire to survive.
Yeah, you say everything that we do is geared towards survival. Freud says everything that we do is geared towards sex.
Sex is survival of the species. Every cell has one thing in common throughout the whole universe: to survive, to reproduce, to create another cell. And so we as people, our survival is based on our ability to be in power or not be out of power.
Side note, with the rise of the COVID virus, or the Delta variant of the COVID virus, the virus is a live species that wants to survive.
Yes, and it is looking for a host, and we are hosts. Ironically, it's interesting you say that. We are now in a society where you have a good portion that have behaviors geared towards non-survival. Like don't get the antidote, don't vaccinate. And it's just amazing to me because it goes against human nature. But there's a desire to be part of a collective, part of a tribe, to think we have better answers. So it's interesting, but that same mechanism still does drive it.
So the attraction of power is what drives us to succeed. Correct me in my thinking here, but if everything we do is for the survival of the species and power, so we, as men, we climb mountains. We study hard, practice our craft if we're into sports. We write incredible songs. We work 80 hours a week so that we can maintain a Porsche, and we do all of these things so that some woman will want to have sex with us.
Precisely.
So we do that for the power.
We do, because a Hyundai, which is maybe a third of the cost, will get you from A to B as well. But no one's really going to notice you in that Hyundai. Whereas women, you may see them in that Hyundai. It doesn't bother them at all. That's not where they get their power. They have a different source of power.
So let's see. Let's see. My first car was a Fiat X19. Got very little play with that.
That's not a power car. People aren't running. Oh man, you see that guy in the Fiat? No.
And then I upgraded to a Corvette convertible.
Now, powerful. That's a power vehicle. People look at it. Whoa, who's that? Corvette. Oh, really? That's Vince. Hey, here's my number. How you doing?
So we equate power with money, success.
I think it kind of like in nature. Like if you see two warring peacocks, they're going to sprout, they're going to bluster, they're going to spread their wings and look as big as they can. So we all want to project power so that we choose a mate, because mates want to increase the survivability of their offspring. And it's subconscious and conscious in some ways. But boy, that guy in that vet, he had to do something to get that vet. You project yourself as strong. In nature, if you have sex with the weakest person in the tribe, your chance of your offspring survival go way down. So you'll see in tribes where the true alpha males, they mate with all the women in the tribe, all the females in the tribe.
Yes, because he can protect them.
He can protect them, but they're more likely to have the strongest offspring.
Strongest offsprings, who of course will continue on with that lineage or genealogy of coming into power.
And it's just baked in the cake of our DNA. It is baked in the cake of our DNA.
Okay, are you a basketball fan?
Love basketball.
Have you ever been courtside?
I have been courtside, actually.
Now, I'm courtside. I have never in my life seen so many beautiful white, blonde hair, tight to short skirt wearing, makeup and full regalia women in one location as an NBA game. And they're flirting with some of the ugliest black men you ever see.
That's funny that you say that, but if you look at them genetically, courtside, you realize this is land of the giants. It's not like watching it on TV. You realize, wow, this is a special alpha male, at least gladiator type, on this court. The desire to reproduce with that, it's just in our DNA.
So the DNA is that they want to produce with these guys because of his physical stature or because of his $27 million a year contract?
Could be either, could be both. I could be none of the above in some cases, I imagine. But it's all part of the alpha male thing. Like, this person is top of the food chain. If I mate with him, and it may not be to mate, it may be just have a good roll in the hay. Who knows, right? But, well, 27 million, it may be more than a roll in the hay. Let's be honest about that, right? How much of that can I get? But it's just something that's hardwired in us.
Okay. Tiger Woods. For me, he's a huge case study of power and the attraction of sex. Is the simple fact that, women are maybe attracted to Tiger Woods because he's being at the top of his game. His sacrifices in life and study put him there, of course. But he has millions, hundreds of millions. He has had a beautiful wife, yet he cheated on her with women who were just willing to be his side piece.
Well, and the thing I said about alpha males and all the women and the pride, I think, boy, there's this thing called the grass is greener. People who do really well, this really was about taller men. That taller men are much more likely to have extramarital affairs. Great research, right? But the thing is, they're likely to get a lot more options because a lot of women are drawn to that, and everybody isn't wired to be a monogamous. That is not in everybody's DNA. It's not best for the species in many cases. I'll be honest with you.
It's not just that. Look at Mike Tyson. His inside information, his people said that he was banging about 3 a day.
Not shocked to hear that. 100 million a fight? Gives you a lot of options. I'll just say that.
Sure, they want to be broke off for about $100K a year. No problem, Tiger. Mike, let's do it.
Yeah, or in their mind, it's not going to end that way. Their mind is going to end in some other way. But we're not that different from animals. And I know I keep going back to that. And the reason I go back to that, because we're really not that different. We just fancy ourselves smarter. But we're drawn to survival. We're drawn to people that can make that happen.
Okay. Now, recently we had the pastor, I believe Jamal Jackson, who, had an incredible ministry. He's doing millions in book sales and seminars, and his church is growing expeditiously, yet he cheated on his wife. And the thing was, and this is what's shocking to a lot of people, or to some people, they're okay with it, she knew about it and did nothing. Is that, what I want to get to is because of his power that she would just subject herself to such private and public humiliation just to stay with him? And I want you to answer that question, but I want you to do it right after this break. Has over 15 years of experience in helping couples heal by building trust, cultivating intimacy, and enhancing communications. Her book, Marital Peace, is a valuable tool to support couples through the challenges of marriage. Her therapeutic approach is influenced by worldwide training in Brazil, Mexico, London, and Hades. Watch for her Fridays on Roku and YouTube. That's Couples Therapy with Dr. Loa Lewis. I'm here with Dr. Shane. Now, Dr. Shane, before the break, we were talking about Pastor Jamal Bryant. I'm sorry, Pastor Bryant, who was another one, a public affair with just about everybody in the congregation, and Pastor Pastor Jackson. But the thing is about Pastor Jackson versus Bryant, or maybe in her own way, she did know that he was cheating. But in Pastor Jackson, this woman knew. In fact, he said she knew I was like that in college. Yet she stayed with him. I mean, did she stay with him because of the simple fact that this man has power and all the humiliation in the world is worth being in line with this power? Or, I mean, tell me, what could it be?
Oh, I see that a lot in my practice. Well, I'll see people repeatedly, and I mean some pretty amazing women and pretty amazing men. And I'm like, boy, that's odd. Why wouldn't you just leave? You got options. Logically, that's the thing to do, right? Mm-hmm. So when you got someone in the spiritual community, first, it could be the vows. Second of all, it could be, we tend to define people by that one trait, that one experience, that one act. You're a cheater. And that's a very crucial one, don't get me wrong. But there may be other things that outweigh that when you put them together. Boy, I got to lose my family. Boy, I got to deal with the humiliation of being divorced. Boy, did I play some role in it? Maybe I could have did X, maybe I could have did Y, maybe I could have did Z. So it becomes a very complex thing, especially when kids are involved.
So that finance is one of the things that holds them hostage to that, is because this man has power and they're in the lifestyle in which they've grown very accustomed to, and they don't want to lose that lifestyle?
It's part of it, but the thing is, when someone gets caught cheating, they don't say, yeah, I'm going to cheat again. They typically say, no, I'll never do this again, honey. They're fairly decent liars about it, and they find out 5 years later, initially their heart is cold and they're distant, they check back in, they're vulnerable, the person does it again. So they don't think this is going to be my life. It's going to be different this time. It's going to be different.
Well, let's see. There is actual pathological term for that. It's called denial is not just a river in Egypt.
Yeah, but people do change. I mean, just like someone does a variety of things. Someone cheats on their taxes. You don't assume they're going to cheat the next year. You assume, boy, you got to get an accountant. You're going to do it differently.
No, they're going to cheat until they get caught.
You're probably right. You're probably right. But the assumption on the other side is something different. People in their marriages and how they describe success and failure. We have this societal pressure, boy, or their relationship with God. I made a commitment. Some people take those very serious. So it's a composite of things. What's going to happen to my kids? What happens? I know one woman, it was weird. I talked to the daughter, and her father had an affair. And she says, I just wish mom would have stayed. And I was like, what do you mean you wish mom would have stayed? She said, our life sucked after that. We went from being in luxury, he was a diplomat, and we lived this great life. And that wasn't the case. He married a woman. Now I see my stepbrothers and sisters living that life. I say it to say there's a realistic thing that people involved with people that have affairs have to look and say, is my whole life worth this?
So is the wealth and fame worth my dignity, happiness, self-esteem, and quality of life?
Wealth and fame may not be, at least to you or I. To some people, they may be enough. And I get those type of people all the time. But a lot of time the driver is, boy, what's this going to do to my family? What's this going to do to my kid? Now, some of it may be a lot of fantasy gets projected onto people, and people bond with them in a real serious way. And boy, it's like an addiction. Love, sex, someone cheating. It could be an addiction. Some people choose crack cocaine. Some people end up with a cheating spouse. They're very similar.
Okay. So the side piece. It doesn't usually go well for them. So why do it?
It goes horribly bad. So it goes much worse than you think. Like 97% of the time, extramarital affairs don't lead in those two getting married. When they do, of the 3%, the divorce rate is 75%. So it goes horribly bad. You can statistically say this won't work.
So they survive. They go through these phases. So they go through the phase of removing him from his wife, then the phase of now they're married to them, and then they go to the phase of now they're divorced.
Yeah, well, there are three good reasons. I'll make them quick, but one reason is fantasy and reality are two different things, and now they intersect, right? When we're cheating, our only goal is, hey, I'll meet you in Miami on the 18th. Free it up. Here's the card. That's their only thing they have to work through. Now they got to work through life. Can't blend those blended families. I mean, the kids aren't, you're a homewrecker. Mama ain't going to recognize you.
Yeah.
And they don't trust each other. So a lot of things contribute to those divorce rates being astronomical.
Okay, so so during the part of cheating, they were all into the fantasy because it was a level of intrigue. It was the forbidden fruit. We're sneaking. We're moving. We're COVID. We're getting together in some foreign place. So that fantasy is all coming there. It's a brief moment, so they don't get to really dive into the person. They're all into the fantasy personality.
Yes, they don't get to know the person. Think about someone at undergrad that you thought was like the most amazing person ever. You run into them, talk to them, you get to know them, maybe even date them. You're like, God, you know what I thought at all. They don't get that corrective information because they have this fantasy and it doesn't intersect with reality. So it's like a drug. You have this event that it's experience that you see as perfect, but it's right here. You don't see before the tape and after the tape.
Okay, so now they've had the fantasy, they've now put the pressure on, or some of the side pieces, especially on social media, are very good at destroying marriages by posting pictures. So she's embarrassed, the relationship's over, the side piece now becomes the wife, and she can't trust him, he can't trust her. She can't trust him because he cheated on his first wife. He can't trust her because she was the one that cheated with him.
There you have it.
All right, and now they're adding an extra pressure by blending the family. Now, I don't know about you, but if I was a kid and I'm going to visit my dad who left my mom, broke up our happy home, when I get to his new house, you actually think I'm going to be, just the perfect kid towards his side piece that's now his new wife?
And even if you were, not for long, because your mom's going to say the day you come home saying something positive, oh, you know who that blankety blank is? And she's going to poison the well. You're not riding off into the sunset with her family, with her life.
No, in fact, you just killed her sunset, and she's in total darkness, and she's gonna and hurt people. Let's be clear. So she's gonna tar and feather the both of them for all of their days, right?
Scorched earth. You are looking at the beginning of a scorched earth campaign.
Yeah, so she's tar feathering and she's lighting the match.
Well, and she made legitimately. I mean, I've talked to women that have had, and men that have had that experience. There's a lot of betrayal and hurt that went on. They usually have had some interactions that were extremely painful. It's not like that's all that happened. There's all these other experiences that happen. So by the time they get there, there's true contempt. They're just natural enemies at that point.
Okay, so men power that we're sidelining. Who have that great deal of money, that aphrodisiac thing that's happening for them. There are a lot of women. Do they have like some control issues?
In some cases, I say definitely not one size fits all. It's just options. I think Chris Rock, when we're talking about Warren Hatch, and he says men are as faithful as their options. They just have a lot of options. So in some cases, it's all of that. Some cases, it's integrity. Some cases, it's even sexual addiction. Tiger Woods, I truly believe, having a sexual addiction. He loved his wife. He loved his family. He has other addictions. I mean, he may have a more addictive personality. So let me just say a disclaimer. I have never interviewed Tiger Woods. I don't know who Tiger Woods is. I'm not saying this is a psychological assessment. As a psychologist, I have to say that. But, boy, it's consistent with that.
So when men are as faithful as their options, isn't there a psychologist that say that we are as faithful as the consequences?
Consequences have an interesting shelf life. In front of us, we're very faithful when the consequences are there. As they wane and wax, it changes a bit in some cases. And everybody isn't the same, the consequences. Some people wear their seatbelt, you see them in their mask by themselves and they're driving. Some people in a crowded bar, they don't wear their mask. So consequences don't impact us all the same.
Okay, so we're going to talk about some really people who are high on the ultimate aphrodisiac scale, and you won't. This may shock a few people, but from what I saw on social media, it's not that much of a shock. And I'm with Dr. Shane Perot, and we will be right back in 2 minutes, 2 seconds.
You opened a small business. That's a great way to have generational wealth. If you're a minority business, you may be struggling to keep your head above water. Why? In 2019, the Black community spent $1.5 trillion because the Black dollar lifespan, 28 days Asian communities, 19 days Jewish communities, 6 hours a month in the Black communities. Major brands target the Black media, TV, and radio. That's why Blacks are brand shoppers. That's why they get a big slice of that $1 trillion pie. Your business needs exposure. You got quotes from cable networks and local radio. They charge a lot of money for a little exposure. Networking and social media is a full-time job to get part-time money. Let's look at a successful Black business model. Remember Soul Train? It was a new Black TV show that Johnson Cosmetics increased the exposure of Afro Sheen and made billions of dollars for Bobby Johnson. Where are you gonna find a good show for a low price? We have a talk show called What You Got to Say. What You Got to Say is a Black-owned talk show streaming live on YouTube channels, Facebook Live. What You Got to Say has a diverse audience from 18 to 62 years old, and their gross income range from $32,000 to $122,000 a year. That exposure will get you a good slice of the $1.5 trillion. Tell us about your business. Maybe able to get on our Black-owned spotlight. In 4 weeks, your business can go from surviving to thriving. To find out how you can get what's yours, email sales@squiresignage.com. They're waiting to hear what you got to say.
Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, v'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillah.
Our often repeated prayers,
Although we may be different,
Yet similar.
as we reach out to our Creator,
we offer all praise.
And we seek forgiveness.
we ask for peace in our hearts, in our minds, and in our spirits. Amen.
that in nature only infect animals were manipulated in the Wuhan lab to gain the function of infecting humans. This research fits the definition of the research that the NIH said was subject to the pause in 2014 to 2017, a pause in funding on gain of function. But the NIH failed to recognize this, defines it away, and it never came under any scrutiny. Dr. Richard E. Bright, a molecular biologist from Rutgers, described this research in Wuhan as the Wuhan lab used NIH funding to construct novel chimeric SARS-related coronaviruses able to infect human cells and laboratory animals. This is high-risk research that creates new potential pandemic pathogens that exist only in the lab, not in nature. This research matches, these are Dr. Ebright's words, this research matches, indeed epitomizes, the definition of gain-of-function research, done entirely in Wuhan, for which there was supposed to be a federal pause. Dr. Fauci, knowing that it is a crime to lie to Congress, do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement. This paper that you are referring to was judged by qualified staff up and down the chain as not being gain of function.
So
let me finish.
You take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans.
Right.
You're saying that's not gain of function?
Yeah, that is correct. And Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about, quite frankly. And I want to say that officially. You do not know what you are talking about.
Right there. Now, hard to believe, Dr. Fauci, to a lot of people, has grown in terms of being an aphrodisiac.
Yeah, you know, it's weird. When they were first talking about him being sexy, I was like, okay, like he was Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt said he wanted to play him. So it's funny, but that's power. That's authority. That's knowledge. That's integrity. That's someone, boy, he stands up to the villain. He stood up to Donald Trump.
Yeah. So I mean, I would not consider my view as a man who's like sexy, and a lot of women are lining up, but he is. I mean, I guess you're right. The integrity, you know, the ability to stand up to powerful people who are far more powerful than him. Is that what does it?
You all admire that guy. I mean, plus there are different types of sexy. There's the nerdy, smart, okay, not bad looking. That's sexy to some people. Sexy is a relative thing, not one size fits all.
I don't know.
You don't think so?
I'm looking at Spike Lee, and like you've seen his wife, you really don't consider Spike Lee to be a sexy guy.
I've not heard a lot of people describe Spike Lee as sexy. No, and I met him in person. I'm like, okay. I've met few people. I met no one actually that calls him sexy. But Dr. Fauci, people see him as smart, stable, safe, brilliant even, and some people find that sexy.
Okay, well, what I recently found that women have found extremely sexy and has dropped a lot of DMs on Melinda Gates.
Rich is sexy. Rich is sexy. Rich is powerful. Do I think, and I've never met the person, I don't think she's going to be a supermodel anytime soon. I'll say that. No, but she's a pretty powerful woman.
Well, I understand. Well, she hasn't returned my DM. I mean,
she's got options. She's got options, Vincent. She's got options. We're not one of them, Vincent. We're not one of her options.
I mean, really? She's got how many billion? Hey, Melinda, give me, Melinda, call.
Yeah, you look good in your diamonds. Yeah, around your neck. You're a woman.
Yeah, you look really good in that Grandma Moses dress, honey. Yeah. Whoa, wait a minute.
Mansion as a backdrop. So
yeah. or what Eddie Murphy said, Oprah Winfrey is not like a lot of guys going, boy, yeah, I'd like to get a piece of that Oprah. But so women of power have become a huge aphrodisiac for both men and women.
It's different though. We have a different standard for women. With men, being handsome isn't necessarily a requirement, because I think Oprah's a beautiful woman. Let me just say that first and foremost.
Yeah, Murphy was wrong, but
I'll go on the record on that. No, I just think what she does. My definition of beauty. Actually, she was Miss Mississippi State at one time. Right? Yeah, she has a history there. But I still think she's an attractive woman. I think mentally, spiritually, financially. But a lot of times we don't have the same standard with women. But when we deal with women in power, now, boy, it's a different dynamic, and you have to be prepared to deal with that.
Okay, what is the different dynamic in a beautiful woman and a beautiful woman with power?
Well, first of all, as men, we're not all that wired to deal with women that are more powerful than us. Some of it do it really, really well. The smart do it really well. Most people don't. And we have to accept the fact that there's something that makes her special, and we have to surrender to a bit of that, at least work in cohesion with that, in concert with it. So I'll give you an example. I'll go back to my nature thing. So and I'll make this short, but in nature, in a pride of lions, the male lion doesn't do most of the hunting. Females do the hunting. The alpha female catches 80%. Male has two jobs: keep them safe, protect the territory. He doesn't keep, and big kills. And like a wildebeest, because when you hunt, you don't want to get hurt because there's no ER room, and that will take you out the game. So you need this powerful male. That's his job. So they work very, very good. If he doesn't do his job, another lions come along, they take the pride, they kill all the cubs under two. So women understand that better in terms of working in concert. When you have an alpha female, you have to trust her to do her part. You don't need to butt heads because you won't win. And that's a lot of couples that I see that come into my office. They can't accept that they have this powerful woman, and they can be challenged because you didn't get the type that's going to cook you scrambled eggs every morning. You got the type that's going to go out and bring home the bacon and the eggs. And some days you may have to cook them. Or at least let's get help to cook them.
Yeah. So and for some men it's a little difficult when their woman is standing over the bed and go, "You didn't make my breakfast? What's wrong with you?"
That part.
Yeah, I can see that. All right, so Dr. Shane, your practice is where?
African American Marriage Counseling. I'm based out of Washington, D.C. in Greenbelt, Maryland. And you could catch me online, or you could join me in my Facebook group, African American Marriage Counseling with Dr. Shane.
In fact, I was witness to one. You have a master class.
Yes, I have a master class, and I do a lot of things that have membership site. I do a lot of things to help couples develop the skills to live their happily ever after. A lot of times we think couples don't make it because of a lack of will. That's not true. They don't make it because of a lack of skills. So we give them the skills to work through that conflict, like that scrambled egg conversation. Then, on Fridays, I might make them. How about that, baby? But let's get some help the other way. Whatever it is, you know?
Yeah, baby. You got how many billion? I'll make you an egg. Yeah.
What's the problem? What's the problem?
What the problem is? Hey, look, I'm going to hire somebody who's going to make a better egg than me. How's that, honey? Yeah.
Now you're talking, but it's figuring out how do you cut a deal. And so just developing the skills to cut a deal so we don't die on every hill. Some people die on every hill and they don't pick them.
Okay. So in your practice, I guess you run into the power aphrodisiac symptoms of the relationship. And what are some of the biggest things that keeps that in jeopardy?
Well, it's interesting that you talked about women, and I thought that was important. So in 1960, female breadwinners, 10%. 1980, 20%. 2000, that went up to 30%. In 2018, 60%. That's like, wow. You know, we have become it is not just our community, black and brown, internationally. So
a matriarchal society,
much more matriarchal, and that's here to stay, and for good reasons in a lot of cases. You know, society has just changed. They have opportunities. Women are pursuing STEM degrees. So we're going to have to accept the model that we may have seen or fantasized growing up with. That's not likely to be in our household in many cases.
Well, I don't know about my household, but it may not be in my son's household. but that's, you find it more in the African American communities, because African American women are now the largest master and double master group in the nation.
Black women rock. I mean, it just is what it is. I admire your sisters. If you're out there, hey, proud of you. Certainly here to partner with you.
Don't DM me. I'm a married man, okay?
Besides, they're trying to hook up with Gates, so we'll with
her money and their brains, I mean, that's a power couple, right? Okay, so your masterclass is about giving people the tools.
It's about giving people the tools. It's about romance and finance. All of them are about couples come to see me. I mean, black people, we get a bad rap for not being into our families.
Yes, we do.
We fight for our families. We sacrifice for our families. It's amazing. These couples don't appear on nightly news, but they're newsworthy. So my programs are designed to help them to develop the skills to make it.
One of the biggest things that you see in a missing skill is what?
The ability to cut a deal. And the ability to cut a deal is difficult because you got to give them something important to you. Go back to the eggs example. I always thought you'd make me eggs, but I ain't doing some of the things that you're doing that I thought I would be doing. And maybe you got it going on. You got this meeting, let me do it. And it's just that simple ability to cut a deal. Or in that case, hey, you shouldn't be over the bed screaming at me no matter what it is, honey. Let's not do that no more. You know what? You're right. And that's the ability to cut a deal.
Okay, great. Now, we're going to take a break, and I am with Dr. Shane Perot, and we're talking about the ultimate aphrodisiac. We'll be right back after this word.
Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, v'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillah.
Our often repeated prayers,
Although we may be different,
yet similar.
as we reach out to our Creator,
we offer all praise.
And we seek forgiveness.
we ask for peace in our hearts, in our minds, and in our spirits. Amen.
And welcome back. Now, I'm here with my co-host, Dr. Shane Perot. Now, I know previously we talked about, and I'd be remiss to actually not bring on this topic. Now, we talked about infidelity and how it breaks up a relationship, especially for a person of power. But are there, I mean, I've seen like the Hillary Clinton thing where this man is in power. He's been cheating. I mean, he's like a serial cheater. I mean, a serial rapist by some women's standards, yet she still stands with him. How does that always work with the infidelity? I mean, do they still stand by you? Do they get back together? I mean, or do they just divorce and cash out?
So before I answer that, you're talking about something that I really want to bring to your audience's attention. So when I work with a couple, the first thing I ask them is the story of you two, which walks us from when you met to today. Seldom, if someone is a serial cheater like you just used, does it start when it appears in the media, no matter how powerful this person is. So if you're out there listening and you're with somebody and you got incident 1, incident 2, incident 3, chances are when you get married, you'll have 4, 5, and 6. So 80% of marital success is selection. And unless that's a lifestyle that you say, okay, other things outweigh it, well, you probably need to make some different choices. But let's say you are married and that has happened. The first thing I say in the healing part of it is not killing yourself. So people tend to blame themselves for their spouse's infidelity. Way I did X. If I say it was because I was weak. Somehow we have been taught, Christianity, all religions teach, hey, turn the other cheek, forgive. But it doesn't teach us to forgive ourselves. And if you really want to move forward, you have to first forgive yourself so you can make an unbalanced decision. So that's the first part of it. When it comes to infidelity itself, if you are in a relationship or marriage and that has happened to you, there are 3 phases of healing. The first one is your reaction. Angry, hurt, all those types of things, shock, dismay. But they have a reaction because usually they're not happy in that marriage in many cases. And boy, is this more appealing than what I have. So we have to deal with the reaction phase. The second is reviewing options. A lot of times people think, do I stay, do I go? But there has to be a third option, which is if I stay, can I repair it? So staying and fixing it is an option because a lot of times affairs or problems are symptoms of other problems, and you have to deal with what that problem is. And finally, if you decide to stay, don't stay angry. Let's figure out how to rebuild our life. How do they reestablish trust? Do they need sexual addiction treatment?
Or a chastity belt.
Or evil, but it would help.
she can always go Lorraine Bobbitt on him.
It has a downside, literally, but you get what I'm saying.
Okay, so for people of power, I mean, one of the biggest things is that aphrodisiac, and that's the reason that we have actually worked so hard to get into power to do. But it tends to turn around and bite us in the behind. And but there are some people who do have that arrangement where he's like, okay, I've got a friend. He's got millions. Millions of millions. And he cheats. Incredibly. Yet, and I asked him about that. I mean, because, if you ever met his wife, she has the personality that when you meet her and she talks to you, you feel like the sky is opening up and birds are singing in your ear and there's a rainbow that's over her head. And, you just feel like she's the most warmest and genuinely loving person that you'll ever meet. And he cheats on her. Mm-hmm. So I said, why? He said, we have an arrangement. Mm-hmm. As long as no women knock on her door, give her a call, and he's not going viral on social media, she's okay with whatever he does. Is that...
Well, I get the natural disdain and disgust for someone like that, or whatever you might feel. But I think marriage is whatever two people agree on. Some people are not monogamous. They're just not going to be.
That's the negotiation part you were talking about.
That's cutting a deal. But it really is. It's like she gets other things that outweigh it. Maybe a bang-up dad. I don't know what it is. Maybe the love of her life. I don't know. I think it's like, how do we say, okay, what works for us?
Hold on, Dr. Shane. You say he may be the lover of life, so you're saying that this guy is extremely rich and he's got the magic wand? How do some people get all the luck? What's wrong with me?
Seems unfair, huh? But I've seen people in that situation that had ED. So, it's not just the sex itself. Some people are extreme bonders. Some people, that's just not that important to them. What's more important to them is being honest. The fact that you're open with me is much more important to me. I can deal with infidelity. I can't deal with betrayal. I can't deal with deception. So it's just picking out of all the things, saying, okay, this is a deal breaker for me. This isn't. I know it sounds crazy, and it wasn't my view when I first started working with couples, but I realized marriage is whatever two people agree on.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to work on some agreements that I have because I'm tired of making eggs. But no. no. Actually, to be honest with you, I enjoy cooking. I used to be an assistant chef at one time, and my wife hates the fact that I cook better than her. But
she said this on the air. See, she's willing to deal with that.
I'm scared of her. No.
I'm not gonna egg you on. How about that?
No, you don't have to. I ain't scared of her
at all.
At all. I'm waiting for the lightning. But so Dr. Shane, look, you're a brilliant guy. Where'd you go to school?
I appreciate it. I went to undergrad at Southern University in Baton Rouge, and I went to graduate school at the Ohio State University, as they say in football circles.
Big powerhouse school.
Big powerhouse school.
Okay, so when's the last time you had a good beignet?
Oh, you're talking to me, man. I love Louisiana cuisine. Nothing like it.
Yes, definitely. All right, so what made you want to go into the humanities or human services?
I didn't, actually. I wanted to be a motivational speaker. And I gave this speech in court.
Really? Here's our shock look.
It's shocking to me because I hate motivational speakers now. I'm a trainer. I tell people I'm a trainer, not a speaker. You can motivate an idiot. But at that time...
Yes! We had a motivated idiot. He was the 45th president.
There you go. You can motivate me to think I could beat Mike Tyson till that first fist comes by me. Like, whoa. Yeah, so I got out of it. But the reason I did is I was speaking in corporate America, and I said, I'm going to do this pro bono in our community. And it landed like a ton of bricks. It was just flat. And my mom's a psychologist. I went to her class, and she was talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, these people are self-actualizing in corporate America. These people are looking for safety and shelter. And in that moment, I realized there was something else. And that's how I became a psychologist, because my major in undergrad was business management.
Excellent. All right. So your practice, you're all into giving people the tools, or as you say, the skills. And are African American, in terms of family, are they missing something in their skill sets?
I think if we are, everyone is. We're just less likely to get help. So we're less likely to come to someone like me at best. We'll go to church. And nothing wrong with churches, just they don't have clinical skills. They tend to be pastoral.
Hold on, doctor. See, my grandmother said, I don't need a psychiatrist. All I need is black Jesus in the bath.
Your spouse is like, we need to talk to somebody and not cut a deal. And boy, we got egg all over us. And that's the difference. We're less likely to get help. That is really the big difference in our divorce rates.
So the more help we get, the more we become more self-actualizing, which gives us the ability to make the changes for a happy relationship.
It does. One other thing I should mention, though, is we're also more likely to be in high-risk marriages. High risk, so blended family, right?
Okay.
Divorce rate normally 45%, depending on the study. One person has a kid from another family, from another relationship or marriage. Divorce rate 65. They both do 70. Hold up, that doesn't mean we can't make it. Those rates drop as much as 30% if we get an intervention. We're less likely to get the intervention. So
right.
There are risk factors that we don't deal with, like a woman or a spouse that earns more money. Risk factor. We're less likely to get the help. That's why our divorce rates are higher.
Wow. So, wow. So this woman is in power and she is doing her thing, and because of that, that ends the relationship. I mean, isn't that?
Well, it's just, are we, first of all, so if you're a woman in power, I taught this program years ago, She Makes the Money. Not one woman on that program would comment. They were there, they would stay from beginning to end, and I started to contact them. I won't talking to group. And it's like, I won't, because of my husband. I don't want to embarrass him. I don't want to betray him. So they're less likely to get help. If they get help, they'll realize that it's 60% in our community, 40% in the European community, and internationally. 60% in the Black and brown. They're not alone.
Right.
That woman as their supervisor, she's probably dealing with it too. So are her co-workers, but they suffer in silence.
Wow. So rather than deal with the embarrassment of getting help, they end up dealing with the embarrassment of getting divorced, and that's better?
Well, the divorce no, that is not better. But it's a matter of having a spouse and feeling like they're betraying him.
Oh, okay.
Like, I'm betraying you by putting our businesses that, boy, I had to slide you this credit card under the desk, under the table, so you could pay for dinner when we were with my parents. Or
No. See, he's not smart. You get the credit card from her while you're driving to dinner.
We should have had that discussion, right?
Yes.
Or I can't put you on the house loan or the car loan. Well, you're not on it, and now you don't want to go out and do the yard. So there's other things that develop, and they don't get the support to manage it better.
I see. And that support is crucial to keeping and sustaining the relationship.
Exactly.
Okay. So, Dr. Shane, tell our viewing audience how they can reach you. Oh, by the way, in case you get DM, you want to let them know if you're married or not now?
If I get DM'd, I'm going to forward them over to you.
No. My wife has links to my accounts, okay? So
and the password. So if you want to get in contact with me, here's a good way to do it. So if you want to get information like this, where we take deep dives, I do Facebook Lives twice a week, and I really go into stuff like this, go to Facebook, type in African American Marriage Counseling in Groups with Dr. Shane. If you want to make an appointment, go to AfricanAmericanMarriageCounseling.com, and you could book an appointment online. If you want me for a speaking event, you can contact me there as well.
Great. Dr. Shane, you have been one of the best co-hosts that I've had this week.
I said this week, and it's Wednesdays, but I appreciate it.
Well, we've got one more scheduled for Friday, but I think you may have her beat. But
I feel better.
But I want to thank you for being on our show. I want to thank you for the information that you have given everybody. I mean, I've been jotting down a lot of tools that I'm hoping will help to enhance my relationship with the woman that I love. And believe me when I tell you, although I said it, I'm not afraid of her. I think it's more the simple fact of I acknowledge and understand that she is the love of my life. And she's always been the best part of my day. But
you hear that, women? This man does exist. You can't be him this one, but he does exist. And I think there are a lot of brothers out here that want to be happy. And Black marriage it's our history, not history.
Dr. Shane, I'm a firm believer that one man can love one woman, and because of that, be a better man. Because when I look into my wife's eyes, I find that nourishment for my soul. I mean, it makes me want to progress, to work more, to be better, because I need to be worthy of a man for her.
Wow, that's powerful. I don't hear too many brothers talking like that. I'm glad you're at that place.
It took two marriages to actually figure it out. But for those watching, for those men of power, and the old cliche, the